Hello everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I wanted to do a video on a show that I used to watch in my childhood and I've recently been rewatching it, and that show is Braceface. This was a Canadian animated show and I just really enjoyed talking about this show. For those who don't know what Braceface is and have never seen it, Braceface was a Canadian Chinese animated series and it focused on this girl called Sharon Spitz, and she was a high school student. So we would be following her as she gets into like all these crazy situations, and with her braces that she was, sometimes they would act up and they would like conduct electricity and cause her problems. For the first two seasons of the show, Sharon is voiced by Alicia Silverstone. I think that's how you say her name, and she plays Cher in Clueless. I think that's where most people recognize her from. And by the third season, she is voiced by a woman called Stacey DePass, and she voices Nikki in 16, which is another Canadian show that I really enjoy talking about, that I want to do more videos on. When the show starts, Sharon starts off as 13 years old, and then she turns 14, and she's 14 throughout the whole show. And in this, we watch as she gets into these situations, and by the end of the episode, she learns a lesson, and all she wants to do is she wants to be popular, she wants to have a boyfriend, and also her name, Sharon Spitz, that's her name, is like Sharon Spitz, is like a little play on that. And the one thing that she wants to do a lot is to grow up fast, which is going to be the main topic that I'll be talking about in this video. I'll be talking about some episodes that she just wants to grow up faster than she is. Sharon is raised by a single mother, Helen. She's a psychologist. She lives with her older brother Adam and her younger brother Josh. She has a dad, and her dad's a musician and he's always everywhere. She hangs around with her two best friends, Maria and Connor, and she has a crush on this character called Alden. And throughout the show, we're watching like how their relationship goes like up and down and everything. One thing I find really interesting about Sharon is the way that she treats her mum. So her mum, Helen, she's a single mother. She's trying her best and she always wants to look out. She wants the best for her kids, right? But in Sharon's head, her mum is controlling. She's ruining her life. She's embarrassing her. But Sharon is always doing crazy things, and she always says, "My mom doesn't trust me. I wonder why." And then her dad, Richard, she thinks he's like the coolest guy ever because he's in a band and he lets her get away with anything. So this is going to lead us onto the first episode I want to talk about, called Miami Vice. This episode, when the show was being showed in other countries, it was one of the episodes that wasn't showed. I watched this show on Pop Girl. I will talk about that channel a different day. I used to love that channel so much. It introduced me to so many great shows. In the episode Miami Vice, this is where Sharon is tired of her mum's rules, and her mum is just telling her, make sure you tidy up, make sure you don't eat any sweets before your dinner, and go to sleep on time. You have a bedtime, right? Normal rules that a kid should have. And she'll be thinking, no, like, I feel like I'm living in a boot camp. My mum was too controlling. She doesn't trust me. She doesn't let me live my life. I'm like, okay then. So when their dad calls and he's like, you guys are having a long weekend, why don't you come visit me in Miami? I'm playing a gig here and it'll be fun for us to hang out. She thinks that her mom is not going to let her go because she doesn't trust her. But the mom says, like, I trust you guys. You guys are mature. I know that you guys are going to be good over there. So Sharon and her older brother Adam go. The younger brother Josh doesn't go because he's sick. When she gets there, they're hanging out with the dad. She starts to realize that she doesn't really fit in with her dad and his bandmates, because the younger brother, he plays music. He's a musician. So they play music together. The older brother, he's really strong. So when he's helping them move things around, they say, if you ever want a job, let us know. We'll give you a job, right? And the whole time Sharon, like, she's lying about the kind of music that she likes. She's staying up late because she wants to hang out with her dad. And then later on, her dad is performing this gig and they're supposed to be there to watch this gig, right? But one of the dad's roadies, that I think that's the people that take the equipment and take them to places, he says to her, oh, when they're performing, we're usually in the back, we're having a party. If you want to come with us. At this holiday, her friend Maria ends up going with her. And then when she skips out on her dad's performance, she goes to the back and this guy gives her gin and tonic. Was it gin and tonic? Gin and coke. Rum and coke, sorry. Rum and coke. I don't know any drinks, guys. I've never touched a drink. So he says to her, like, yeah, have it, it's really nice. And this girl is downing these drinks like it's juice. She drinks cup after cup after cup, making a fool of herself, right? And when she breaks the speaker because she's so drunk, the guy starts shouting at her and her brother comes and saves her. And he says to him, she doesn't know how to party because she's 13 years old. And he says to her, we're not going to tell dad about this, but because of her braces, they act up in this episode. They connect to the speaker, and in the performance hall where her dad is, they all hear her talking about how she got drunk and the brother's telling her off. And the dad ends up telling her off in this episode. And I really love that scene because you see the dad who she thinks that is so cool, is going to let her get away with anything. And she wants to leave her mom to go live with her dad and be on the road traveling from place to place, right? Because she thinks that'll be fun and she gets to do whatever she wants. He sets it down, like he says to her, are you stupid? Like, in my own words, he says to her, like, are you dumb? You're 13 years old. You're going out drinking with people who are older than you. You put yourself in a vulnerable position. Like, what the frick are you thinking? And then the episode, she's like, yeah, I guess you're right. And you'll think she learned. Then she'll be another episode and she's doing something dumb with older guys. There is another episode called Mummy Nearest. And in this episode, Sharon thinks that her mom is controlling again. So in this episode, she's supposed to be doing a project on Red Riding Hood. So when she's on her mom's computer, she's searching this thing up and she comes across some adult films that are about Red Riding Hood, but not the Red Riding Hood that she knows. She's obviously shocked at this, but then later on, when her mom tells her that I saw what you were searching up in my history, she said, oh, I just saw it by accident. But it looks like Sharon has been watching a lot of videos because she said from the history time, it looks like you've been watching a lot. So Sharon was just out here watching adult films. In this episode, Sharon has a crush on her older brother's friend, Tony, and Tony's 17 years old. So she's already seen like these films and she's thinking, oh my God, this is what guys like. And she's telling her friend Maria about this. And Maria's like, there are some parts of life that we're not supposed to know yet and I don't want to know. So when she overhears her brother and his friend talking about how they want to go watch an R-rated movie, she wants to go watch the film with Maria. And in order to look like she's old enough, her and Maria wear makeup. And her mom's already overheard this talking about how she wants to see an R-rated movie. And when her mom tried to talk to her about the videos that she saw, she just says, I was doing research, I just randomly found those videos. And she never wants to talk to her mom about things. And her mom is always there. Like, she always wants to have conversation with her, but Sharon just thinks that she's being too nosy, she wants to ruin her life, yada yada yada. So when they try to go to this movie, the mom ends up coming along and the whole movie plan is ruined. They end up watching a children's movie. The next day at school, she sees this flyer and she's wondering how she can get Tony to notice her. This flyer is about a party at Tony's house. So she tells her brother that she wants to go. Her brother, he's 17 as well. He says, I don't want to go. This is not the kind of scene, like you shouldn't go as well. Like you can't be going. And she blackmails her brother because she knows that he's been skipping school and she says, I'll tell mom about this, right? So her and Maria, they lie to the mom and the mom ends up going out with her boyfriend, and then Maria and Sharon wear makeup again to look older and they go to this party. The party is not what she expected it to be. People are drinking, people are fighting, and one of the boys comes up to her and he's like, hey, do you want to go outside to my car? And she's just thinking, you're going to drive in this state? She doesn't realize that she's put herself in a dangerous situation because he does not want to be driving anywhere. He wants to be doing things to her. But obviously she's so young and she's in a situation where she shouldn't be. She doesn't realize what he's saying to her. So she just ends up taking his keys. And then the friend Tony ends up coming into the picture and they're like taking the mick out of her, talking about how she's a baby and where's her mom and everything. And she doesn't want to be seen as a baby. This is something that gets her angry when people don't see her as an adult, but she does a lot of childish mistakes, right? Tony offers her a drink and she says, I'll have a Coke. And he says, how about something stronger? And he has his arm around her, right? Also, going back a little bit, after they've seen the movie, like she's upset with her mom for ruining her life, right? And she wants Tony to recognize that her mom knows this, right? And she says to her, Tony, guys like Tony don't like little girls like you. And if they do, then there's something wrong here, right? But she's just thinking like, an older guy is better for me. One thing about Sharon is she always goes for guys who are older than her and she just puts herself in these situations again and again and again. I'm just like, at what point is enough? Another episode where Sharon is trying to grow up faster than she is an episode called Busted, and this episode wasn't shown in a lot of places in a lot of countries due to its content. And in this episode, Sharon wants to go watch this movie, and this movie is for people who are 14 and above, and she's realizing that people are treating her like a child, like she's younger than 14. When she's buying food, they're giving her toys for children, right? And she's confused as to why this is. And the episode, it tells us where it's going the moment it zooms into the chest of these two other girls that are buying the same ticket for the movie. And her friend says to her, it's because they're developed and you're not. And she's not thinking like, what does that mean? Maybe it's just the clothes that they're wearing. So she goes out and she's trying to find clothes that are going to enhance her chest, but nothing is working out. And the lady, the sales assistant, is like, don't worry, I have the perfect thing for you. The Enhancer 3000, which is a pump bra. So it's a bra that you put on, it has a remote control, and you just like press the button and it pumps it up, and you can choose whatever size you want. And this 14-year-old girl is like, yeah, this is the perfect thing for me. She buys it because she feels so insecure about her body, right? And throughout the episode, we're seeing her as like, she keeps pumping this because the more she pumps, the more attention that she's getting. And then as the episode is going, we're starting to see how guys don't even look at her in the face, they just look at her chest. Even her stepbrother, or like her soon to be stepbrother. So she has a crush on her soon to be stepbrother's friend and she wants to impress him. But her stepbrother, the moment he sees her chest, he's given her, like, his jaw is dropped, he's staring at her and everything, right? So as the episode is going, she keeps pumping. Her friend Maria is like, you need to stop this. This isn't good. Like, this isn't good for you. And she's like, don't worry, Maria. I know what I'm doing. I'm the one that's in control. I have the controller, right? So she goes to this show. Her stepbrother and his friend are there. He notices her and he dances with her. As they sit down, he starts to touch her inappropriately and she feels uncomfortable by this. And in like the little moment where she's trying to get away from him, the controller ends up breaking and the bra just keeps pumping, pumping, pumping to the point that it just explodes and everyone is pointing at her and laughing. The whole point of this episode was talking about how insecure she feels about not developing as fast as the other girls, and then even if the girl is developed, like how people treat them differently, how guys don't even treat them as like a person anymore, they're just staring at their chest, right? And by the end of the episode, she starts to realize, like, I'm happy with my body the way it is, and even though I want to grow up fast, it'll come later on. It doesn't have to be something that I need to rush, right? The reason why this episode wasn't shown in a lot of places, I think I understand, because while the message was great, I feel like the amount of times that they zoomed into these girls' chest, yeah, that was a lot. They could have done it one time and we would have understood what they're talking about, but it was like again, again, again. So probably why it wasn't shown in a lot of places. The more I watched the show, the more I realized like how horrible she was to her mom, even though her mom was just trying. Another episode this happens is whose life is it anyways? And she wants her mom to trust her and everything, right? And she thinks I want to make my own decisions and my mom should trust me enough to make my own decisions. And she's like, what's a good thing that I can do to show that I can make my own decisions? She decides to get a tattoo. She wants to get a tattoo and she's telling everyone about this and she's going to get a tattoo. And when her mom says no, oh my God, mom, you're ruining my life. Is she insane? A lot of the times, a lot of the things that she says, I'm just thinking, this girl's insane. Like, there's no way around this, right? She thinks she will think of the craziest things ever. And when her mom doesn't agree with her, she'll make it out like her mom is the crazy one. Her mom is the one that's being unreasonable for saying the correct thing to do. And she doesn't trust her to make this decision. So as the episode is going, like, she goes behind her mom's back to get this tattoo and everything. And then her mom says to her, you know what? Okay, you want to get a tattoo, you go ahead and get this tattoo. I will sign it for you. If you want to make a decision that you're gonna regret later on, go ahead. Go ahead. I'll sign this paper. And then later on, when she sat there, she starts to realize, you know what? This isn't a great idea, and she just gets her ears pierced, right? Oh, the episode where she goes to that party with Tony, right? Her mom, in the end, like, the only thing that she says to her is like, I know, like, you're grown, like, I trust you to make your own, like, come up with your own punishment. I'm proud of you for taking the keys of that guy instead of him going into the car drunk, right? Because that's what she thought, instead of sleeping with her. She wasn't thinking about that. And the other thing is, when she realized that the party was too much for them, she calls a taxi and her mom's like, I'm proud of you for that. That's it. Like, she doesn't really get a lot of punishment. She just gets grounded, or her mom just says, oh, okay, I'm so proud of you for thinking about the right thing to do at that time. I'm just like, okay, I need to see this girl getting punished, getting told off straight. In the show, we see Sharon making a lot of bad choices, and then by the end of it, she learns something, right? And one episode that I think this one like was really hitting is called Skin Deep, and this is an episode where her school is doing a fashion show, and when she tries on this dress that her friend Dion makes, and he's like the best dressmaker there, the other girls, Nina, her bully, she's been bullying this girl since, like, they used to be best friends, and then she turned into her bully. She says to her, how do you feel confident to even go out in that dress? Like, look at your problem areas, you still have your baby fat. And then this starts to play on her head a lot, and she starts to think, you know what, the best way for me to lose the weight, instead of doing what Dion suggested for him to like just alter the dress so she can fit into it, she's like, no, it's fine, I just ate a big like breakfast. She starts to starve herself. And this episode, it talks about eating disorders and everything, because as the episode goes on, she gets more drastic. Like, she's just drinking like fizzy drinks. She's like weak. We see her as she's like getting weaker and weaker, and how intense she gets with like the thing that she's doing, over exercising. And then the moment there's another boy in this, a boy that's older than her again, when she starts to have a crush on him, he says to this girl who won the modeling competition last year, when he offers her noodles, she says no, and he says, I guess if you have to starve yourself to look that good, then it's working for you. Keep doing it. She takes this into her head and she goes extreme. And when he realizes her, when he like recognizes her, she's like, wow, this is working. She continues to do this until she collapses on stage. And the whole point of this episode is like being confident in your own body and being comfortable with your body the way it is. And you shouldn't have to change yourself. And her friends like hold an intervention, Maria and Connor, talking to her about like eating disorders and how a lot of teens are affected by this. And this, they talk about how she says, if this is wrong, if this is dangerous, then how is it that all these magazines every single month, they have a new diet that they're talking about? And I thought that was really good points to bring up. I really liked the messaging of that episode, and it was a great episode actually. Another good episode, which was one of the episodes that wasn't shown in a lot of countries, is this episode where she goes on the date for the first time with Alden and she starts her period, right? It's called Perfect Date Period. So in this episode, Alden asks her like, my family's opening a new restaurant, do you want to come down? And she thinks it's a date, but he just asked her to come down so they can hang out after, but she's also helping in the restaurant. When they go skating, she starts getting like really bad cramps and she thinks that she has appendicitis, and Alden is panicking. He calls the ambulance, they go to the hospital and everything, and then the nurse says to him, don't worry, like this, she's just having cramps. This happens when people start their periods and everything. At the start he doesn't really know what it means, but then he starts to put two and two together, and Sharon feels so embarrassed, right? Because the nurse gives her pads, she accidentally drops them everywhere, and it's just her feeling ashamed of starting her period, right? And Alden is trying to make her feel better. He was so sweet in that episode. He's like, this is what my sisters do. One of them, she listens to music. One of them, she eats chocolate. Another one, she just doesn't, nothing happens to her. Maybe you can try these tips and tricks, right? Maybe that would help. And also having a pad is very good for like a landing pad for his toys and everything, right? So when she goes home, and the next day, like, whoa, when she goes home, her brothers ask her about it, and they think it's so funny that she started her period and she had to go to the hospital. Her mom is very proud of her. But the next day at school, she's worried that Alden is going to tell all the boys about this. And she's just like panicking. She thinks that when she steps out into the room, she's going to have a big pee on her head, which he doesn't tell anyone anything because there's nothing to tell, right? And the whole point of this episode is her like starting this new chapter in her life, and her, even though her mom says to her, you've become a woman, she's like, what actually makes me a woman? Like, I can't vote, I still have a bedtime, why does she keep saying that to me? It's her just starting this new chapter and everything in her life, and her accepting that and coming like to terms with what's happening to her body. But I don't understand why this episode wasn't shown in other countries due to its content. It was a very good episode about starting your period and not feeling ashamed, and just feeling like to come into terms and accepting this is just something that's going to happen once a month and then you move on. It's just a natural part of life. But they said, shut that down straight away. Also in the show 16, they did a period episode, and that period episode wasn't shown in a lot of places due to the fact that it's inappropriate for the audience of Cartoon Network, right? And I just think it's because the girls in that show were talking about wearing tampons instead of saying pads. If they said pads, I feel like the episode would have been shown, but because they kept saying tampons, that's what I think. That's my theory, because your audience, there's girls, people start their period at the age of like 8, youngest as 8. What do you mean it's inappropriate? The only conclusion I could come up to is the fact that they said tampons instead of pads. I've really been enjoying rewatching Braceface. I just really enjoy it. Just brings me so much joy to talk about shows I used to watch in my childhood, and seeing that other people remember it as well and we talk about it together. I just love it, right? And another show that I've been rewatching is 16. I'm going to do a video on that, and I think I'm going to focus on the episodes that were banned in other countries. I think there was about over 20 episodes that weren't shown in America due to the content being inappropriate for their audiences. Like the period episode is one that I mentioned. Other episodes, it's just things like, oh, they're stealing, so no, we can't show this to kids. I'm like, okay, if you say so. But yeah, I will be talking about that show soon. I've had fun making this video. Hopefully you enjoyed it as well and you remember Braceface. If you do, let me know like what moments of Braceface you remember. So thank you for watching this video. like and subscribe. I'll never get tired of saying that. I've always wanted to say like and subscribe.